In this lesson I want to tell you all about the blue note and the B.B Box. Now if you're improvising with shape 1 pentatonic and starting to run out of ideas, this is the video for you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the minor pentatonic shape 1 first. Everything's in the key of A minor and we're going to get progressively. We're going to keep bolting things on across the next 4 slides. So let's get into it. So A minor pentatonic. Now this is the first scale that most lead guitarists or aspiring lead guitarists want to play, but I need to show you it to build upon it, okay? So you can either use this diagram, everything's backwards. You can either use this diagram over here, or you can use this diagram down here. Everything's available in the accompanying PDF to go with this lesson, okay? So we're going to start on the 5th fret of the A string, 5th fret of the A string, 5th fret of the low E string. I'm going to pick that with a downstroke, followed by the 8th fret of the string below it. So we've got 5-8 on the low E. I'm then going to move down a string and I'm going to go 5-7. That's a D note and an E note. Down a string again and I'm going to go G and A. 5 and 7. 5 and 7 for the last time on the G. And then 5-8, 5-8 on the B and the high E. Use more than one finger, make sure you're using down and up picking. And I don't know if you notice I'm using a clean tone today. And that's so you can really hear what's going on. So pause the video and get that under your fingers if you haven't done already. So now we're going to add what we call the blue note in. We'll tackle the blue note first and then we'll get to the B.B Box in a second. It won't take long. Now the blue note is a note that doesn't strictly belong with the other notes that we've just spoken about. It's what we call the flattened fifth. Now the blue note is, you're flirting with danger a little bit. You'd never want to improvise and stick on that note. But you might want to mess about with it. All I've done there is add that blue note in. So let me put that on the screen while I'm waffling. Now it's called the flattened fifth. Now if you don't know anything about intervals, we have 7 notes that stack on top of each other that create a scale, and you can flatten or sharpen some of those notes. If you take the 5th note of the scale and flatten it, that's what we get, what's called your flattened fifth, or your blue note. Most notably, people like Tony Iommi used it all the time in Black Sabbath to get that sort of demonic sound. We're going to use it for blues today. So can you see in the diagram whether it's here? I'm backwards again. Whether it's over here or down here, it's exactly the same as what we've just done. However, I've added the note in and I've the extra note in, and notice how it's in blue because they're the blue notes. So let's go through it. We've got 5 and 8 on the lower E string, like we've done to start with at the beginning of this video. I'm then going to go 5, 6, 7. This note in the middle. It's a bit of a fruity one, but it sounds really cool. Moving on to the D string, I've got the 5th fret and the 7th fret. Moving on to the G, I've got the 5 and the 7 again, but then I'm gonna catch quickly that 8th fret of the G string before I move on. 5, 7, 8 on the G. I've then got 5, 8, 5, 8 on the high E string. Really nice sound, especially if you're going with something a little bit more. I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to comp both lead and rhythm there, but you can hear it's playing out of the key and you're almost flirting with danger, but you're not sort of veering too far away from home. So I want you to have a mess around with that idea as well, okay? Now on the internet, people talk about the B.B Box all the time and just assume that that's kind of, oh, I've covered B.B King now. A lot of guitarists that I really respect have spent most of their career trying to pick apart what B.B King does. He's clearly the best in the business at that kind of thing. Now, the way that I describe the B.B Box might not be the same as somebody else's, but that's how I use it. Some people call it, I know George on the podcast refers to it as the House of Blues extension, and it's a way of adding extra notes on top of that first position to give you some new heights, but also I find it's really good for that sort of gentle, mellow, moody blues type thing. So here's what we're going for first. Now, what I've done is, you've just seen the slide before. Let's talk about the 5 notes first, and then we'll talk about how to bolt it onto the minor pentatonic. Now, you'll see all this stuff online about play amazing blues with these 3 notes, and blues is only 4 notes, it's just the ones that you choose. This is kind of what they're referring to, but I feel like they're selling you a bit of a pipe dream. So bear with me. We're going to start on the 9th fret of the G string, believe it or not, and we're only going to play 5 notes. That's all we're playing. 9th fret on the G, 8th fret on the B, followed by the 10th fret, and I think it's also worth noting the red notes are what we call root notes, so we're in the key of A. 10th fret of the B string is an A note, and we're going to mirror that on the high E string with the 8th fret and the 10th fret again. Now get that under your fingers, but you can start to hear you start messing around with it and it starts to sound really bluesy. Most notably, these 10th frets, particularly, I say, maybe the 10th fret on the high E string and the 8th fret on the high E string are really good notes to bend. Particularly that 8th fret on the high E, you can just almost tweak it a little bit. And you get that root note that's highlighted in red. Now, how do you mix that with what we've already got? So if you look here, I've taken the diagram of both the first position and the top half of the B.B Box is basically the top half of the second position of the minor pentatonic, but it's just how you get there. Now, I've given you the diagram, but I've also given you the tab below. Now, the tab below is actually a nice little route through it, so let's break that down. So we've got 5th fret and 8th fret, just as we have all lesson, on the low E string. I'm then going to go 5, 7, 5, 7 on the A and the D string. So that's the first three strings, just covering the minor pentatonic. And then, when I get to the G, I'm going to play 5, 7, and then I'm going to come up to the 9th fret. Can you see how I'm breaking out of that position? And what that's going to do is that's going to enable me to play the 8th and the 10th fret on the B and the high E string. You have to forgive me, my guitar's going a little bit out of tune. But that's going to provide me passage into the next position. Now, I think it's worth noting that there's so many different little routes that you can take out of this, and what I want you to take from your lesson is you've got 2 new little tools in your arsenal that you can use for improvising. So I'd go onto YouTube, I'd find an A blues backing track, and I would start floating around with those ideas. And it's kind of like the A note, the flattened fifth note, the blue note, is quite dangerous, but how much can I get away with before it starts to sound rubbish, you know? These are ideas for you to take and then move on and be able to mess around with. So have a go with those, let me know how you get on.